So today I'm going to be making a video explaining why I chose Skoolie life, and also I have a few questions that I got from my Instagram family. And before I get started, I just want to say thank you guys so much for your support. Thank you for your encouragement. You guys have just been such a blessing. Encouragement that I've gotten on Instagram, Facebook, from friends, from family, from new friends, new Skoolie friends has just been amazing, and you guys definitely kept me motivated along the way, for sure. Alright, so why I chose Skoolie life. I chose Skoolie life because I love the fact that I could take my home anywhere, and I can also have something to call my own. I don't like the fact that in this society there are certain types of debts that are okay, certain types of debts that are socially acceptable and that are encouraged, in fact, and then there are other types of debts which are frowned upon. Like, people say that mortgages are normal and mortgages are a part of life and mortgages are just what you have to do to get where you want to be, but I wanted to challenge that. I don't think that that's true. I think you can have something to call your own and also not be in debt, not be in crippling debt. I had been looking into the tiny home, community tiny home research for years. I had my heart set on shipping container homes. But the more research I did about it, the more I realized that it just wasn't for me, because I didn't know where I wanted to live and I didn't have the information or the means to buy land, and I didn't know where I wanted to buy land. At this time I was stationed in Illinois, and I wasn't even sure if I wanted to stay in Illinois. I wasn't sure where I wanted to move in the United States, because frankly I hadn't traveled around the United States a lot. While I was in the military, I was stationed in Italy for 3 years, but my travel within the United States was very limited. I had only been to a few countries at this point. So I didn't know where I wanted to settle down in the United States, and I didn't even know if I wanted to settle down in the United States, but that's a whole nother conversation for a different video. But yeah, basically I wanted something to call my own. I didn't like the idea of taking out a huge mortgage, and I also wanted something that could move with me, and at the time, frankly, I was dating someone who wasn't very supportive, and he basically said that I was too bougie to build my own tiny home.
What?
And that discouraged me as well, and I wish I wouldn't have let it get to my head that much, but frankly I did. So I basically pushed that whole idea out of my head. I had been vigorously researching tiny homes and shipping container homes, but after I realized that it really just wasn't possible at that point, I basically forgot about it, right? So fast forward 6 months later, I got out of the military, and I was just like, I'm ready to take the plunge. I need something to call my own. I need something that is going to remove me from this grid and remove me from this system of paying hundreds and thousands of dollars to a landlord just so that they can put that money, into other investments, but then I'm left, with nothing, which I don't want to really get into the conversation of renting versus owning, because that's very complex and a multi-layered conversation, and I don't believe that people that pay rent are wasting their money. Like, if you're paying money to have a roof over your head, that's not a waste. It kind of irks me when I hear people say that paying rent is a waste, because you're paying not to be homeless. So okay, like I said, that's a whole nother conversation for another day. But fast forward, I wanted something to call my own, because personally paying rent long term was not an attractive option for me. So I started doing a lot of research about Skoolies. Now, mind you, I had been researching Skoolies for years, and I had researched a lot of different tiny home options for years, but I'd never really, I guess the idea of living in a Skoolie never really stuck with me until I got out of the military and I realized that it was a viable option. After I got out, I started researching it hardcore, and a month later I had a school bus, guys. A month later I had a school bus. 6 months later, I was living in it, and a month later after I moved in, I'm here. And it's just like that. It was kind of like a spontaneous, well-researched type of thing. Like, I had been researching it for a long time, but me actually jumping into it was very spontaneous. But I honestly wouldn't change it for the world. Was it easy?
Hell no, to the no, no, no. Hell to the no, hell to the no, to the no, no, no. Hell no, no, to the no, no, hell to the no, no.
But, like, look at where I'm at now. I was able to escape, you know, that horrible winter that I was living in. And now I'm on my way to the complete opposite. I'm on my way to basically paradise. Arizona is 70s, you know, every single, okay. I know Arizona is not paradise. I don't want anybody to quote me on that. I was being a little bit melodramatic. But I know it's not going to be paradise, but I'm saying weather-wise, it's night and day compared to, you know, the winter in Chicago, Illinois. So now we're going to get into the question. Can you cook in your tiny home? Yes, I can cook in my tiny home. I just cooked an absolutely amazing dinner tonight.
Look at the flick
when
of
I
that
get
wrist.
settled down, I actually want to do a tiny home cooking like series, and I want it to be like a black version, obviously, which I've seen some tiny home cooking series or videos, and they're very well done, but I want to add my own twist to it. I want it to be something different, you know. I have a couple ideas. I don't want to say them because I don't know who's watching. I don't want them to, you know, beat me to it before I can do it. But I have some tiny home cooking videos coming, and I feel like it's going to be more unique than a lot of the tiny home cooking videos that are out there. Let's just put it at that. I consider myself a very good cook. I get compliments on my cooking every single time I cook for people, okay? And I was also a culinary art student before I decided that that industry wasn't for me, which is a story for another day. But even though I decided not to pursue culinary arts as a career, I still love cooking, and I'm very passionate about cooking. I just personally didn't like what I saw in the culinary industry, like working it as a job. Alright, do you feel safe in the tiny home, in my bus? Yes, I feel safe. I think you still have to use common sense. You still have to be smart. You still have to keep your head on a swivel. Like, personally, I'm always very aware of my surroundings. I think it's just the military in me. I always keep my head on a swivel. I always side eye everything and everybody everywhere I go, especially if I'm in a strange place like I am now, and I'm not familiar with the area like I am now. I definitely keep my head on a swivel. I would recommend anybody living Skoolie life to have some form of protection. Personally, I have mace, I have switchblades, and when I get settled down in Arizona, I also want to get my concealed carry license. I do have a license to own, but I would like a license to carry as well. I would prefer to have a weapon that I could use without having to be at close contact. Like 90% of the weapons that are out there, the attacker or the assailant has to be within a few feet of you, you know, in order for you to actually be able to use it. And I would feel comfortable having something where I could protect myself at long distances. Where do you park? Well, it depends on what area I'm in. If I'm living in an area that I plan on seeing myself long term, then I will try to look for campgrounds in that area. Like the area that I'm heading now to Arizona, I already have an RV spot reserved at an RV resort. And so when I get there, I'm gonna go straight to that RV resort, pull out a little bit of paperwork, and call it a day. But if I'm traveling, like right now I'm staying at truck stops, and you can also stay at rest stops. Rest stops have less, you know, amenities than truck stops. Obviously, you could stay at some Walmarts, you can stay at some, you know, like Home Depots. I would say always call before and ask. You definitely don't want to get that knock in the middle of the night. You definitely don't want to have any run-ins with the police, especially as people of color, black people. The less negative interactions we have with police, the better. Can I get an amen? Okay. So I hope that answered your question. Are you dating? Are you interested in anyone? Yes and yes. Hello. Hey, how you doing? Can you do a tour? Yes. I would be prepared to do a tour like probably middle or late February. My bus is functional. Like I said in the last video, it's functional, but it's not very pretty to my standards. I could probably like clean up a little bit and do a tour right now and it would still be like acceptable, but it's just not up to my standards, and I don't want to show my tiny home until it's, you know, at my standards to show. Did you buy land for your bus? No, I have not bought land for my bus. I will most likely buy land within the next couple of years if I decide to even stay in the, you know, United States. I am open to living overseas, or at least traveling overseas long term, so that's another conversation for another day. But yeah, I don't even know if I'm gonna stay in the United States long term. So buying land in the United States when I don't even know if I want to be here long term, you know, that can get a little tricky. But it is my goal to buy land and build a homestead. That is my ultimate goal. I just don't know where yet. Okay. How much did the build cost? My tiny home build cost, I'm probably about $15,000 into it at this point. I took out my retirement for this, okay? I used like pretty much all the money that I was getting from my government benefits by going to school. I should say VA benefits, GI Bill benefits, okay? You know how people feel. Okay, never mind. I'm trying not to be that controversial. I don't want to scare everybody away, but I should just clarify that they are GI Bill benefits, not like food stamps or anything like that. It was GI Bill benefits. And I basically poured every extra red cent that I had into this bus for 6 months straight, and at the end of the day, it was about $15,000. And I plan on investing about maybe another $5,000 into it. I have a heater, but I don't have air conditioning, so the next couple of months I'm gonna be buying a mini split and installing that. I also want to install a max fan to get some circulation up in here, okay? And I also want to do like maybe about 1,000 watts of solar. Nothing too grand. What else do I want to do? And what else do I want to do? Yeah, I think that's about it. Air conditioning, max fan, solar, and also I want to repaint my bus, but that's not really going to cost that much, probably like a couple hundred. But between those three things, the fan, the air conditioning, and solar, that's going to be like about $5,000 in and of itself. But after I get those three things installed, I'm pretty much going to be Gucci. Like, my build will be done, and I think I'll be satisfied for the time being. All right. Can you do this with kids? Girl, yes. You don't see all these damn videos out here? Google Skoolie life with kids, or even YouTube Skoolie life with kids, van life with kids. There are people in vans doing this, girl. If I can do it, you can do it too. And if you move in with your kids, that could free up like hundreds or thousands of dollars that you could invest, you know, into just their education or their future or whatever other things that you want to do. But definitely you can do this with kids. I don't have any kids. Diamond is my kid. My poodle is my kid. But I have seen dozens of people do this with kids. It's very possible. So I hope you guys enjoyed this Q&A. I hope I answered all your questions, and I will see you guys in the next video.